Welcome back to discuss second part of bread faults. I am Chef Himraj Patil working at AISSMS College of Hotel Management and Catering Technology. In the previous video, we discussed different types of bread faults. Those are chef fault, flavor fault, texture and crumb fault, and crust fault. Then we discussed various faults related to a shape. Those are poor volume, too much volume, and poor shape. Sometime when we make the bread, we see a crack or the split, the burst on the top of the bread. The reasons for this one are over mixing. If the when you make a dough using any kind of the mixing methods like straight dough method, salt delay method, dough method, any kind of the mixing method when you use, it should be mixed till a certain stage because it will have a very bad effect on a bread if it is under mixed or over mixed. In the previous slides also we saw that over mixing means the more gluten is developed. And when the more gluten is developed, it will have a network of the strands of all gluten all over and which is very strong. And for the gases and the steam which is formed during baking, that will try to escape from the crust. And if there is no vent, there is no place to escape, then it will crack open the crust and then the burst forms on the top of the bread. Next cause is under fermented dough. If there are not enough gases formed into that, that will also cause a crack on the bread. Next, improper molding, seam knot on bread. So when we make a elongated loaf or let it be a round loaf also, when we make the bread smooth, always there will be a seam at the bottom of the bread loaf. And if you keep that upside down, then naturally if that seam is on the top, it will open. And if it is kept on the bottom, then you will have a smooth top. Another cause is a uneven heat in the oven. So it happens with the conventional ovens where the heat is not uniform in the oven, and whatever parts comes in a very hot area that starts rising, the how the remaining one is in a low temperature or where the heat is not enough. Because of that also, because of the fluctuation in the temperature at the two places on one bread loaf, can cause a crack. Next reason is oven too hot. If you put a bread in a very hot oven, in that case the gases which are formed inside and the steam that forms immediately, and that tries to come outside the bread, and at the same time even the crust is formed. Because of that, even the burst is formed on the crust. The last reason is insufficient steam. If there is not enough steam formed in the oven, the surface the gets dry very fast, and because of that also the your bread splits on the top. So next category is flavor faults. Sometimes your bread does not have a desirable flavor or the taste. The causes for that one are, the first one is too little salt added in the recipe. So that is a main flavor enhancer. So this is the third function of the salt. Already we saw that it controls the growth of the bacteria if it is added in enough quantity. If you add extra into that, it is going to hinder the growth of the yeast. And if it is not added in enough quantity, then the your bread will not have a desirable taste. Next one is inferior, spoiled or rancid ingredients used. Of course, if your ingredients are not fresh and if it is not of good quality, if it is already spoiled, or if it is gone bad, and if you use the same ingredients, your product will also have the same flavor and the taste. Next reason is poor bake shop sanitation. That's why we need to keep our bake shop clean and sanitize all the time, because your bread is going to absorb the flavor of whatever fumes are there in the kitchen, in the bakery, that it is going to absorb. That's why the bake shop also should be clean all the time. Last one is under or over fermented. If the bread is over fermented, then it will have a very yeasty flavor. So to avoid that one, it should, and if the bread is under fermented, then the your dough is not matured enough and it will not have a that good flavor of the bread. So the next fault is that faults related to texture and the crumbs. So sometimes your bread becomes very dense or it has a very close grains. The reasons are that too much salt is added. Too much salt means the retardation of the dough. The yeast is not going to develop. Second one is too little liquid is used. So if there is very less liquid in the recipe, the dough is going to be very stiff and your bread dries out very fast. Too little yeast. If the less yeast is used, then the less gases would be formed. And if the less gases are formed, it will have a very close texture because there are no gases which helps to rise the bread. Underproofed. If the bread is not kept for proofing for enough time, means the less gases are formed. And the last one is under fermentation. Once the dough is made, you should keep that for enough time for fermentation so that the enough gases are formed by the yeast, which helps to make your bread nice and to rise and have a desirable texture. So opposite to the closed grain is a two course or open grain. So in the picture you can see some bread has a very big holes. So in some type of the breads which is not desirable here, the causes are too much yeast is used. More yeast means more gases are formed. More gases means more gases pockets are formed inside the bread. And after once it is baked, if you cut, you can see that cells, big cells inside. Second one, too much liquid. If too much liquid is used in the recipe, that liquid, that moisture, when you bake the bread, it converts into the steam and big pockets are formed inside the bread. Incorrect mixing time. If the dough is over mixed, in that case also the more gluten is developed and it holds all the gases inside. Improper fermentation. If the fermentation is too much and not equally fermented, that is because of the yeast is not mixed properly. Some places it is more and some places it is less, and in the part where the yeast is more in the dough, there it is going to ferment more. Overproofed dough will have more gases into that. And the last one is pan too large. So bread gets enough space to spread and rise more, which also helps to form big pockets inside the bread. Next fault is a streaked crumb. So the reasons are improper mixing procedure. So if the ingredients are not mixed properly, then there will be a streaks in the crumb. Poor molding or makeup techniques, which we have already discussed in the previous slides, that if the bread is not molded or made properly, if the punch down is not done properly, if all the gases are not removed properly, then there will be a streaks inside the crumb. The last cause is too much flour used for dusting. So that flour makes your bread more dry, and wherever it is excess, you see a streaks because of that also in the crumb. These references have been used. Kindly watch part 3 of this topic. Thank you.